This is Apurva from Mom's Belief. I hope you all are doing good and keeping safe. Today we have Dr. Omkar Mate. He's a young psychiatrist from Nerul in Navi Mumbai, Maharashtra. He has accomplished MBBS from Indira Gandhi Government Medical College, followed by Diploma of National Board and Diploma of Psychological Medicines from KJ Somaiya College. He is a proud recipient of Major General Jennings Award for being the overall topper in the DPM examination held in the year 2010. Dr. Mate's in professional journey started with Rajiv Gandhi Medical College. He later worked with Rajawadi Hospital as lecturer and Dr. D.Y. Patil Hospital and Research Center as senior resident. Today he is going to discuss and tell us about academic difficulties in children. So, thank you. Over to you, sir. You can start.
Yeah, thank you very much, Apurva, and thank you, Moms Willie, for giving me this opportunity today. Am I audible clearly now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You're audible. Please.
Okay. Okay, so we will be discussing the topic of academic difficulties in children today, and from the perspective of psychiatrist. So first of all, I would like to tell why a psychiatrist is someone who is well equipped to talk about this particular issue. The reason being, uh, uh, all the most of the disorders related to academics in children come under something called as the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is given by the American Psychiatric Association. So the most developmental disorders related to academics also come under the purview of this particular diagnostic classification, and that is why one of the some of the faculties like a behavioral pediatrician, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, they usually deal with this particular issue. And we usually cannot separate the academic issues from the emotional issues to the developmental issues and the behavioral issues. All of these have an impact on each other in a particular child's psyche, and that is why we are usually trained to look into these matters. So going with that background, when we assess a child with who is having academic difficulties, it is not only the child that we have to assess. We have to look at the child's environment as well as the child's guidance. So what we usually see is at the various situations in which the child is, so how the child is since birth, what was the how was the birth history of the child, whether there were any delayed milestones after the birth. If anyone wants me to speak in Hindi, please feel free to tell, so I can accordingly intermittently speak in Hindi. So birth and milestones later on, then we have to ask about the background of the family, how the where the child resides, how are the dynamics or the dynamics in the family members amongst themselves. Is the child exposed to any pressures at home, whether the child has a non-viable environment at home, whether there are some issues. So the child, obviously, after the entry in school, the time of the child maximum is spent at school as well as at some part of it at home. So another important aspect is the where the guide is mentioned, it is nothing else than the school of the child. So we have to look at the scholastic uh, environment of the child, the school's environment, the teachers, the interaction between the child and the peers or the co-students, the interaction between the child and the teacher, the overall behavior in the school, as well as academics and extracurricular activities in school. So all of these have to be taken into consideration before coming to any form of reaching a cause for the child's academic issue. The same thing have to be followed whenever a child has a emotional problem as well as a behavior problem. So these three things are important when we look at any child with any kind of problem brought to us. Now talking about academics, so what do academics require? I'm going to make it, I mean, simplistic, uh, keep it to the bare basics, and this is how we evaluate. It is something which I'm not going to talk from the textbook or anything at all. So what does experience tell me? So academics require obviously attention. So the attention of the child has to be good. The child has to understand well. So understanding of the things taught have to be good. The child needs to be good at memorizing things, especially in a system, our current education system, where memory has a big role to play. And then a child should be able to reproduce what he has learned and memorized. He or she should be able to reproduce it well. So all of these things are something which a child requires, these skills for having a decent enough academic uh, background. So when we talk about the problems in academics, we should look at the problems in these four things: the attention, understanding, memory, as well as the power of reproducing. So what are I have further tried to delineate it into two factors. Like I said, the problems in the child, if there are child problems related to the child, or there are problems related to the environment in all of them. So when we talk about problems in attention, uh, can you disable the annotations, please? Yeah. So when I'm talking about problems in attention, why are there attention issues in child? So either there are developmental issues in the child. So what do I mean by developmental issues? So these are issues which are related to the child's physical and mental development, and basically the brain development. So these are the developmental issues. Now these can be issues like intellectual problems with the intelligence. So if the child has an intelligence problem, we usually talk about intelligence in terms of intelligence quotient, so IQ, which is something which is measured after, can be measured well after the age of 6 years. And we have classifications of intelligence as normal being something between, so all of us average IQ is between 90 to 110. Children below 90 but above 75 IQ are called as children in the borderline intellectual functioning. Sometimes they are also called as slow learners. Children who are below 70, they are children who have a mild mental retardation up to 55. 55 to 35 can be moderate mental retardation, and below 35 is severe or profound mental retardation. Now this term mental retardation is nowadays replaced by the term as intellectual disability. So there can be problems in intelligence, or there can be problems in attention span, or the child can be distractible. Now, there are ages according to which we classify this. For example, attention span cannot be equal to all ages. So, it differs. So, and the proof of that, or I would rather call it on based on that, is our education system. So, when a child is in the primary schooling, they are usually they have lectures which are 30 minutes in duration. When they go to college, they have lectures of or higher secondary, they have lectures of 40 minutes, 45 minutes duration. And when one enters the professional streams or the professional college, at that particular time they have lectures of 1 hour. That is all related scientifically to the attention span. So we are expected to have that much of attention span in that particular age. So there can be problems in attention span not according to that particular age, and that can be problems like ADHD, learning disability, etc., etc. So there can be these problems, and they can be distractible. By being distractible, I mean we all have a certain capability of focusing on what we do. So attention is usually divided into focus and margin. Like right now, people who are viewing this webinar are focused on what I'm talking right now. But in the margin, you are even aware of what is happening around you. So whether the fan is working in your room, whether there is enough light, whether someone is talking to you, etc., etc., etc. But if you are focused on my talk right now, this is the focus of your attention, and the remaining periphery is the margin. Now, sometimes what happens is things in the margin attract our attention, and the focus changes. Now, if the focus is not where it should be, then we call it as being distractible. And we all have been distractible, or we all are distracted. Okay. So right now, if you find my talk boring, obviously your attention is going to focus somewhere else and you will be distracted. If there is some more pressing thought in your mind, you have to do something else at this particular time, your thoughts will be there and your attention will be focused on that particular topic and you are going to be distracted. So like that, there are this is normal distractibility, but sometimes the brain it is not able, or mind is not able to focus at all, and they are excessively distractible, not related to issues in the environment, or basically they are developmental issues in the brain. Okay. Yeah. So like I said, there can be inattention. The issues with the child can be of inattention. The issues can be with distraction. So some children have less than their age, the peer from the friends from their age, they have lesser attention span than them, and they are very easily distractible. So even small, so they are not able to focus at tasks, they are distracted by small things. Now one thing to be cautious about is anyone who is distractible, I am not going to diagnose him or her as an ADHD kid. Okay. This has to be only in multiple areas. So this distraction or this inattention has to be in multiple areas, not only in academics. So it has to be in play also, it has to be at home also, it has to be with other friends also, it has to be in school at extracurricular activities also. So I cannot just diagnose a child as having an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder based on the child being distracted only in academics. But yes, it can be one area where I have to look into. So this child can be excessively distractible. Now problems there can be. So these are the problems related to the child, the intelligence, inattention, distractibility. And when it comes to attention, there can be various problems in the environment. What can they be? There can be an understimulation or a prior overstimulation. So what do I mean by that? An understimulation is, suppose uh, a child in pre-primary section or in the kindergarten or maybe playgroup is lectured as a child in a secondary section is. So if someone talks in monotonous sound, in long dialogue, not dialogue, monologues to the child, and they are expected to be attentive, obviously that is not going to happen. So that is what is under stimulation. You will see that a kindergarten kid would be more attentive if there is a lot of audio visual impact. So the teacher has to sing, the teacher has to have some activities like colors, papers, various sand, maybe play, use a lot of these things to teach that particular child. If those things are not done, then we will call it that the child has under stimulation, and in that case obviously his attention is not going to remain at the task in on the task in hand. Sometimes there might be prior overstimulation, and especially in today's age and world of media exposure to children. So if a child even before entering the school is all the time on things like YouTube, the child might be seeing nursery songs or age appropriate material. But what is going to happen is, if he is constantly being stimulated by these things, what is going to happen is he may find the actual school and the teacher to be boring, maybe. So that is where there can be a prior overstimulation, and that is why the child losing attention span or not having good enough attention in the academic situation scenario, because he has been overstimulated previously. Also, the problem in environment can be the need to be attentive, whether there is a need for the child to remain attentive. You can see in the second picture, this is, sometimes I come across children now in the past 1 year who are being on schooled online, And what is happening is, if their video is not supposed to be kept on, if the teacher is not monitoring whether the child is attending or not, then the child is happily going to doze off or going to do something else. And that is, there is basically, the child does not need to be attentive to be present in the classroom. And in that particular yeah, uh, scenario, there are obviously going to be problems in academics. I have come across many children in the past 1 year where this is the reason for their poor academic performance in the last 1 year, or their development of disinterest in academics in the past 1 year, because suddenly they got a leeway, or they got an environment where they were not needed to be attentive. Whereas if they are needed to be attentive, then the attention, they will try their level best to be attentive. So these are problems related to the attention in children. Then there can be obviously environmental distractions. So your child is trying to be attentive, but there are too many environmental distractions. So the environmental distractions can be loud noises. If the child is being on in online school, there can be fights going on at home, or there can be a single room where the child is trying to attend a class and online class, and there are too many noises around so something like that which is distracting. Whereas in the classroom, there can be things like some uh, co-student is uh, um, doing something more interesting than what is happening with the teacher. So in that particular case, and we have all gone through it, okay, right? So somewhere around the recess time, if some of our co-student used to open his or her tiffin box and we found something interesting or smelled something interesting, even our attention used to get distracted. So that is an example of environmental distraction. But we have to look if it is the environmental distractions are severe enough or prolonged enough to cause academic uh, issues in that particular child. Now this is after the problem with attention. There can be problems in understanding in the child. So there can be problems in the child, as well as again the problems in environment. So what can be the problem? First and foremost, I'm going step by step, because if there are problems in attention itself, there are going to be problems with understanding. If I did not attend well when the teacher was teaching in class, obviously I may not understand well. The second chance I get is when I am reading on my own. This is in secondary section maybe. When I am supposed to be attentive when I am reading or I am doing my homework, so that maybe I get a second chance of understanding it well, or maybe with my parents. So, but if I am not attentive during that time because of the reasons discussed previously, causes discussed previously, then obviously my understanding of a particular thing is going to be hampered. So this is going to be like that. I mean, when I come to memory, the first two things, if they are not proper, obviously the memory is going to be problematic. So problems in attention will lead to problems in understanding. Other than that, audio visual issues. And surprisingly, if you have heard of anyone undergoing testing for learning disabilities, the first thing, even before learning disabilities or IQ testing, is it is mandatory that they get their ears and their eyes checked. The reason being, surprisingly, many times poor academic performance can be because of the simple reason of them not being able to see what is there on the blackboard, or it being blurred, okay, or they may not hear what the teacher is speaking properly. And in that particular case, obviously what I have not seen properly or what I have not heard properly is not going to be understood properly. So audio visual issues have to be ruled out in most of the cases. Then, as I said, if the intellectual problem is there, so intelligence is the problem. If the child is a slow learner, automatically a slow learner is going to require more number of uh, repetitions or more patient teaching for that child to understand something. And if that is not happening, in that case, the child is going to understand lesser. Especially they are going to have poor conceptual learning. So they might do things like which involves rote learning like tables or numbers well, but they are going to have problems when a plus b is equal to c, or let us say when there is Pythagoras theorem being explained and they are able expected to solve a problem related to that. In that particular case, they are going to have a problem because their concept may not be clear. So in slow learning can be an issue in leading to problems in understanding. Of course, there is going, this is a big thing, and the incidence or prevalence of this particular problem is 5%. That means if there are 100 children in the class, 5 are going to have some or the other learning disability. You can imagine how many children will have learning disability, but most of them go undetected. So learning disability is a problem which will lead to academic issues because understanding may be an issue. Learning disability can lead secondarily to problems in attention also. For example, like in this particular case, if I am reading BSc, sorry, BSD, or mirroring is there because of learning disorder or reading disorder. If I am jumbling up some say G for small g for small q, or small p for small q, in that particular case, what is going to happen is I am obviously having problems with alphabet. The alphabets when become a group which becomes a word, so I will have a problem with bigger words. Then I will have problems with bigger sentences. I may have problems like dysgraphia in that particular, dyslexia. So in that particular case, I am going to have problem with punctuation. And in case of problems with punctuation, I am going to be a poor reader. And when I am not reading things properly, obviously I am going to have problems in understanding. And when I have such a problem for a long time, obviously later on I am going to lose attention because I am going to be distracted in something more interesting. So all of these are interrelated things. So a child with a learning disability usually has problems with understanding, later on may also have problems with attention span or attention. Okay, so this is and 50% of the times learning disability is something which is associated with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So obviously, someone who has two developmental problems together is going to have much more problems in understanding and attention also. So another reason in case of a child can be disinterest. For example, I remember that when I came to the 12th, 11th or 12th grade, I was simply not that interested in mathematics. And when I was not that interested in mathematics, I really did not apply my mind, or I did not attend. My attention also was hampered, but I did not attend well when it came to something like derivatives and integration and stuff like that. So my interest had gradually over a period of time, I had lost interest in certain subjects. Okay, now this interest can be because of multiple reasons, and the commonest reason I have come across is that one, nature, child is innately not interested. Second, the child has not received proper stimulation for that particular topic. So we all might be having teachers who did not teach a particular subject well. So for example, let us say from third to fifth standard, I had XYZ teacher who was teaching that same subject in a not so great manner. So obviously, when I'm learning a particular subject for a long time, being taught in a not a great manner, in that situation, obviously I am gradually going to lose interest in that particular subject. So disinterest can be because of external factors. Disinterest can be because of some, probably I am not made for that particular thing, which we call as heredity, genetics, maybe innateness in us. So disinterest can be because of that. Disinterest can be because of childhood depression. Okay, so if a child is depressed, then he will or she will gradually lose interest in multiple things. So when we have to find out what is the cause of a particular child's disinterest, then we have to look at all these things. Disinterest in depression cannot be selective. So a child is I mean very interested when it comes to playing. A child is very interested when it comes to all wow wow wow, when he or she is talking about food, or going outside with parents and playing with other children. but selectively disinterested in academics, then I will not call that the child is depressed. Okay, so disinterest, which is a part, which can be a part of depression, it has to be generalized. So it has to be in multiple things. Otherwise, we have to find out why the child is disinterested in certain aspects of academics. So disinterest and depression, these are things which may lead to academic issues. Then problems in environment when it comes to understanding. And the first and foremost thing which is of importance is the medium of instruction. So if I have, and I see this in especially in cases where the parents are uneducated or the child is exposed to more of his or her mother tongue or vernacular language and is expected to study in a school where English is the predominant language or medium of instruction, and everybody around him or her are talking in English. The teachers, the co-students, the principal, everyone, he is being exposed to a fairly alien language. And in that particular case, there is going to be now, it can be because of their sense of inferiority. It can be because of them being difficult, finding it difficult to understand something. Because if you think about linguistics, then the more you are exposed to a particular language, you learn that language better. So if you are exposed to, let us say, 4 hours of schooling and 12 hours at home in a particular language, then it is going to be difficult for any child to cope with it. But some cope well with it, some may not. And in those children, there might be a problem in academics because of the medium of instruction. So many a times I've seen children losing interest in academics gradually, or their performance going down, where I think that the intelligence was better, the even the aptitude of the child is good enough, but the reason why he or she is lacking behind is simple, that he is being taught in a language which he is not um, has not coped up well with, is not great at. So in such cases, if it is detected early, especially in primary sections, then what we can do is we should go ask the child to change the and go back to a vernacular medium where he or she may do better or excel. The second and a very common problem I see is teaching method. So if the teaching method is, like I said, is not something which is stimulating enough, I have seen sometimes what happens is sometimes I have seen extra intelligent children or super intelligent children, and they grasp things very fast, they understand things very fast, they memorize things very fast, and they are so good at it that what happens is when they are exposed to an understimulating environment where the mode of instruction is not great. I mean, the teacher is, though I would, I will be blunt here, maybe the teacher is boring, okay, or is not teaching well. Then the intelligent child who has already learned something very fast will obviously lose interest and in teaching. And then if this becomes a pattern, then gradually understanding is going to become impacted, because the child will be overconfident in an understimulated environment, and in that case there are going to be issues in academics later on. But overall, in general, you are able to find out if you talk to your child, and they will tell happily to, if you are non-judgmental about it, they will tell happily that XYZ teacher doesn't treat well. And then you have to simply ask that, do you only feel you are the only one who feels that way, or most of the children in your class? And they will give you a good enough answer. So in that particular case, the reason why that child is lacking in that particular subject is because the teaching method is not great. The use of audiovisual techniques might not be there. The use of waking up techniques, I will call, like asking questions in between or something like that, which keeps the children on toes. So that is not there. There might be a number of reasons. So in that particular child's problem, the teaching method is at fault. Now, before I go to memory or memorizing, I just want to talk about this particular information processing theory of memory. And what is this information processing theory is? Uh, so this is something which we call, from psychology point of view, this is something called as Atkinson-Shiffrin model. So what is this? So any sensory input from the environment. So visual input, so what we see, हम जो देखते हैं, what we hear, वो हम जो सुनते हैं, all that is the sensory input from the environment. It gets registered in the brain in something, a hypothetical area, not area, a hypothetical unit called as sensory register. So sensory register is something called, which is associated with sensory channels, that can be hearing channel, visual channel, etc. And the information we receive remains in the sensory register for several seconds. After that, whatever information is attended to, जिस पे मैं ध्यान दूंगा, वो चीज information that is recognized and attended to goes into something we call as short term memory. And short term memory is something which remains for 20 to 30 seconds. यानी अगर मैंने कोई चीज देखी, you will see that when you are walking down the road, it is not that you are going to remember all the things that you see on the way, okay, but certain things you will remember. So some aspect of that made you attend to that or recognize that particular information, and that went into your short term memory. Now if you think over that particular thing or rehearse on that information, अगर मैं उस पे 2 मिनट, 1 मिनट, 30 सेकंड, 10 सेकंड सोचूं उसके बारे में, if I give it enough meaning, like for example, oh, that is a lovely signboard, it looks so great, the orange color is really nice. So I actually rehearsed that image in my mind. All these thoughts came in my mind, and that orange signboard got stuck. And what is that got stuck is it went into my long-term memory. Okay. So any information in the short-term memory, 20 से 30 सेकंड जो रहता है, अगर मैं उस कोई भी किसी भी किस्म का रिहर्सल करूँ उस पे ध्यान देने के बाद, वो अगर मैं सोचूं उसके बारे में, then that will go into something called as long-term memory. And in the long term memory, it is then organized into categories. So categories can be according to any individual. So there can be a category of particular smells which I like, smells which I dislike, sites which I like, sites which I dislike. So the categories for long term memory can be n number, and it is all it is different from individual to individual. So whatever we see and hear will go for to sensory register for few seconds, and what we are attentive or recognize then goes into short term memory for 20 to 30 seconds. And later whatever is rehearsed, जिस चीज पे हम ज्यादा ध्यान देंगे, जिसको हम रिहर्स करेंगे, जो information that will go into long term memory. And then there is something which is remembered later on. And for remembering, there are other factors like retrieval cues, etc., etc. So what is remembering is representation of item from long term memory. Most of the times what we remember cannot be exactly how it went in memory. The way we remember it can be colored by our emotions, our knowledge, our thinking, our perception of that particular information. All of this together creates a, let us say, a coded memory, and that is retrieved. So remembering is whatever our brain or mind represents that memory as, and that is information is remembered later. Why I am speaking about that is, when we talk about problems in memorizing in children, obviously like I said, if there is a problem in attention and understanding, अगर मैंने ध्यान ही नहीं दिया है या कोई चीज मुझे समझी नहीं है ठीक से, which itself means that सेंसरी रजिस्टर में इंफॉर्मेशन चला गया, शायद शॉर्ट टर्म मेमोरी में भी चला गया, मगर उसके बाद रिहर्सल नहीं हुआ उस चीज का, इट डिड नॉट गेट रिहर्स्ड इन माय माइंड, दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू गो इनटू लॉन्ग टर्म मेमोरी. So if there are problems in attention and understanding, then memorizing that particular thing is going to be difficult. Then if there is excessive use of rote method, यानी रट्टा मारने की ही आदत है, if I do more of rote learning, tables is a form of rote learning. If I apply this particular method of rote learning everywhere, after a certain time my brain or is going to get fatigued by the amount of information that has to be stored, and obviously then some parts of it are not going to be remembered then, because I am just using rote learning or rote remembering or recitation, repeated recitation or rote learning as a memory technique, and obviously in that particular child memorizing is not going to be that great. Sometimes we also see that some children are or students are obsessive during memorizing. So we come. So these are usually what we call as perfectionist kind of children. So they will try and remember every word like it is. They are obsessed कि ये word इस तरह से ही याद रहना चाहिए, ये sentence इस तरह से ही याद रहना चाहिए. I need to remember entire sentence. I need to remember entire paragraph. So what happens in this kind of obsessiveness is the gist is lost sometimes. The capacity of understanding is lost sometimes. The need for perfection is so overpowering that I may lose out on a lot of material to be learned and focus on a little. So मुझे अगर 10 चैप्टर करने हैं, याद करने हैं, मेमोराइज करना है, मैं एक ही चैप्टर कर पाऊंगा because my brain is overwhelmed by my own perfection. And in that case, what is going to happen is I am going to find it difficult to complete my syllabus till my exam, and that is going to happen in some children, and then they are going to have exam anxiety and exam refusal, fear of exam, etc., etc. So the reason in these children is obsessiveness during memorizing. Now when it comes to memorizing, what are the problems in the environment leading to problems in memorizing? Obviously, if there are too many distractions, so we all know that most of us, if there are too many distractions during a particular time, we avoid studying. We used to avoid studying at that time if there was too much of noise. Some people even get into habit of studying late hours in the night because they have too many distractions during the daytime. Many children or students say that they are more focused at night. The reason being distractions are less, the sounds are less during that time. If there are too many distractions happening in the environment the child is studying, obviously there are going to be problems with memorizing. Overcrowding in the family, if there are constant fights or family issues going on, that is going to cause problems in memorizing what they are learning. Now the last part of it is the problems in reproducing. So whatever I have attended, whatever I have understood, whatever I have memorized, some children have problems in reproducing them. जो पढ़ा है उसको एग्जाम में लिखने के वक्त या फिर वाइवा में बोलने के वक्त प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है. एंड व्हाट हैपेंस इज, obviously if there are problems in attention, that won't they won't understand, it won't go in memory. So ये तीन चीजें अगर problematic है तो obviously there are going to be problems in reproducing. But sometimes ineffective memory techniques are used. Like for example, most of us will have some particular technique of memorizing. Like I had friends who would remember the entire page as it was written. That we call them as people having more of visual memory. There are people who will remember, who will be able to remember things which they have recited. हमें अपनी आवाज में जो हमने पढ़ा है वो याद रहता है, and then we will be able to reproduce that. So if I am a visual kind of visual memory kind of a person, but I am using because my mother or father or my teacher says कि जोर से पढ़ के याद करो, and I'm using that particular technique, obviously it is going to be ineffective with me, and then I am going to have problems in memory as well as in reproducing things. If there are so ineffective memory technique being used can be a problem. And sometimes I have learned well, I have studied well, I have memorized it well, but I become very anxious. एग्जाम आया तो पसीने छूट जाते हैं, मैं कुछ याद नहीं कर, मुझे कुछ याद ही नहीं आने वाला है, आई एम गोइंग टू गो ब्लैंक. और पहला क्वेश्चन देखते ही कि अरे बाप रे ये मैंने पढ़ा ही नहीं है कभी, एंड देन आई जस्ट गो ब्लैंक और आई गेट सो स्केयर्ड that just my fear will cloud my memory. So the more I am fearful of something, the more memory is going to be a problem. Why does this happen? The simple reason is uh, body and brain's response is whenever there is anxiety or fear, it goes in a fight and flight mode. यानी मुझे एक तो लड़ना है नहीं तो भागना है. In that case, there is going to be release of adrenaline. So my heart rate is going to increase or my breathing is going to be shallow and increase respiration. I'm going to sweat. These are physical things. But what is going to happen is I'm going to be extra alert, perceiving everything around me as danger and trying to find out a way out of it or run from it. Okay. So in that particular, obviously when I'm extra alert in the present, my energy or mental energy is not towards what I have learned, and that is going to create a barrier between things from the memory to come to my present consciousness. And so exam anxiety is going to cause, or anxiety is going to cause problems in reproducing things or remembering things. Sometimes there is social anxiety. So if I have a social anxiety, I am shy, I'm not someone who will talk in front of people, etc. And I am facing a viva in front of four people, or I am facing in a viva where there is just one teacher, but there are four people listening from outside the room who are listening to what I am saying. So so I know somewhere that it is a social situation. It is not a one-to-one. There are three other people listening to it. So if I have social anxiety, I may have problems in performance in such situations, and I may not remember. I may fumble. And one of the biggest things is anxiety of failure, which we see very commonly. Sometimes the anxiety of failure is not because of, we all perceive that parental pressure is causing that, but most of the time what I see nowadays is that it is their own pressure, that I must excel, is a pressure they themselves have put on themselves. And because of that, they consider that if I do something less than, I have so many students who consider 90 not so good. 90% is not so good. I need to have 95. And just if I am not able to score 95, then I am someone useless. That is their faulty belief, and that is leading to anxiety of failure. They are not even going to fail, but they are in their own thinking, they consider themselves to be a failure if they score less than a particular benchmark which they have set for themselves. And in that situation, just that anxiety of failure can lead to problems in reproducing stuff that they have actually learned very well. Then obviously depression is something which encompasses attention, understanding, reproducing, memorizing, everything. Problems in the environment. So distractions again in environment is going to. So मैं एग्जाम लिखने के लिए बैठा हूँ और बाजू में रास्ता बनाने का काम चल रहा है, टक 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 आवाज आ रहा है मशीन्स का. Obviously that may interfere to what I am going to write, or the way I am going to speak in my exam, depending on the situation. If there is a distraction in the examination room, in the sense that there are two children sitting next to me or copying, and that is taking my attention, or I am being disturbed by someone who is trying to peep in my paper or asking me repeatedly what should I write. So in that case, there are so many distractions that I am not able to reproduce what I have learned well. So there can be distractions in the environment leading to problems with reproduction. Then there might be inability to use particular memory techniques. So for example, like I said, some are visual learners, auditory kind of memorizers. In their situation, suppose some पर्टिकुलर मेमोरी टेक्निक्स लाइक, मुझे अगर मैं बात कर रहा हूँ वही आवाज याद रखने की आदत है, एंड देन आई एम एबल टू राइट. And in the classroom, how am I going to do that? In a classroom exam room, if I talk to myself, if I'm not able to do that, or if I'm not able to hear myself because of too much of noise around. So in that particular case, mera sub memory is attached to auditory memory, and then I am not going to be able to perform or reproduce well in exam, and that is going to be a problem. Then there might be problems with improper retrieval cues. For example, suppose I have memorized something with a mnemonic, and मुझे वक्त पे mnemonic ही याद नहीं आया. In that particular case, I am not going to remember what I have tried to memorize. If I have kept the retrieval cue, so for example, मुझे अगर दिन भर पढ़ने की आदत है और मैं चीजें पढ़ता हूँ, याद रखता हूँ in an AC room, and that AC air conditioned environment becomes a retrieval cue कि मैं जब शांत हूँ, ठंडा महसूस हो रहा है, उस वक्त मुझे चीजें याद रह रही है. रिट्रीवल क्यूज मीन्स रिमेम्बर करने के वक्त जो क्यूज यूज होते हैं. सो लेट अस से hints which help me in remembering. So if air conditioning becomes a hint for me to remember something or memorize something, when I am trying to recall something or reproduce something, उस वक्त अगर मैं पसीने से तरबदर नॉन एसी रूम में एग्जाम लिख रहा हूँ, then obviously that is going to cause problems in my remembering things properly, or reproducing or writing things properly. And that improper retrieval cue is going to cause. So sometimes when we take a proper history, then we come across children and we ask them क्या हुआ तुझे, क्यों नहीं लिख पाया तू उस दिन स्कूल में, and they tell that क्या पता गर्मी थी बहुत और मैं नहीं लिख पाया. And then if we ask that how do you usually study, so I usually study at my home in an air conditioned room all the time. And that day I went to the center and there were no light, electricity, there was not even a fan working, and I had to write. I just couldn't remember. So that may be the reason, maybe, that the retrieval queue for them was air conditioned room or a particular amount degree of temperature, and that case they are not going to remember well or not going to do well, reproduce well. So thank you. I come to the end of my lecture today on the problems in academics. This was just the overview. There are I tried not to go into diseases or disorders too much and keep it as simple as possible. So if you have any questions, I welcome them.
Participants, if you have any question, you can simply unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I am Dr. Preeti Ange.
Yes.
Sir, I want to ask if the teaching methods are interfering with the academic learning, then how to control them?
Ma'am, I couldn't hear you.
If the teaching methods are interfering with the academic learning of the student, then how to control them? Like suppose in a class nowadays there are 40 to 50 students, and the individual teacher cannot concentrate on each of them. Many of the answers are wrong, and the teacher simply corrects them like. So then it affects the academic learning. So how can we control the teaching? How can we control the academic teaching method?
So if in that, yeah, it's a great question. So see, fortunately, unfortunately, just the fees are skyrocketing, but doesn't mean that the quality of education is really improving. So if we come across the teaching method having a problem, we either take it up with the institution, or if that is not possible, then we have to, because finally the child is ours. We cannot rely on, see, many times I come across parents who are very callous about their child's education, कि उसको तो tuition लगा दिया है ना, तो अभी होना चाहिए, वो perform होना चाहिए. Like I put a particular child in I put a particular गन्ने को मैंने इसमें डाल दिया जूसर में और उधर से गन्ने का जूस निकलना चाहिए. It is not like that. So if we come across our child being having a problem with the teaching method and the institution is not willing to change, then what we need to do is we need to put a second level there, and that has to be us. So if I feel that my child is just taking advantage of this particular teaching method, और वो जो भी लिख रहा है वो टीचर yes करके आगे बढ़ा दे रही है, then I need to be extra sure that my child does not make that mistake. Maybe take more amount of time and do some amount of pre-screening that he doesn't take it callously. Like you see many times nowadays, children will like write things, especially in the lower grades. They will write things as if they are writing on a WhatsApp or an SMS. They will use short forms. So we have to be extra cautious, and we have to repeatedly tell them that this is not how we will write it. It is okay in SMS, but I don't want you writing in this particular fashion when you are writing an answer. Or many times they will do some. I mean, if you want to write SOME sum, they will write SUM sum. They will write SME as sum. Like the way we do it when and they pick these things from social media at the drop of a hat. So we have to be that second channi jo hai, where we will be able to, we have to take that extra responsibility if the institute is not taking, and then we have to make sure that they don't get away with it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, so we do not have. Okay, so thank you for this wonderful and informative session, sir, and thank you for joining with us today. Also, I would like to thank all the parents and professionals for joining with us today. We hope you all have gotten your answer, and thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. Thank you all participants for joining. Have a good day.